Hello and welcome back to another Pickleball Physio episode. I am super excited because we are continuously talking about ways to stay fit and healthy and well for the sport of pickleball, not just on the physical level, but today we're going to be talking about the mental components that come into play when it comes to pickleball health and wellness. And I'm super excited because I have a special guest, Gabriella or Gabby. She is coming in with a lot of background and understanding of mentality in clinical psychology, in high achieving type mindsets and practices and lifestyle choices. And so I'm really, really excited to have Gabby on today to be sharing with us ways that the mental game of pickleball and the mental game of life tie into one another. Welcome, Gabby.
Hi, thank you for having me on. So excited.
So, Gabby, for those that are not familiar with you and what you do just yet, I was wondering, could you please share some of the things that got you into working in therapy and helping to grow people into this mindset, into this experience to work hard, but also take care of your mental health as well?
I'm a clinical psychologist by day, is what I say, and an athlete through and through otherwise. But I love health and fitness. That's always been my jam. People that know me, college, like I was always in the gym. I am still usually at the gym. For me, like health and fitness in general, just as a broad thing, has always just been almost like my sacred place. Was really into I grew up playing soccer and track and CrossFit and powerlifting, um, but pursued clinical psychology as like job. And so those are just, for me, I've always been linked, just mental health, physical health. And so what I do in private practice now is kind of coined the phrase that therapy is the mental gym. And I've actually gotten a lot of people recently that vibe with that, connect with that. It just feels okay. I can do that. I can step into the gym, the mental gym, like a therapy room. Actually got it. I've had a couple of guys coming into therapy for that reason too, because it feels like more relatable.
Mhm.
Um, so for me, that's been natural. And I think I just wanted to create that space because that's where I also feel most comfortable in talking about nutrition and physical exercise along with mental health. But yeah, in terms of my practice, that's really where I focus on, and body image, all those things. I work with athletes, high achievers, perfectionists, anyone struggling with anxiety in general or, mood. But especially I get a lot of folks that either maybe I do work with like college athletes, but just play a sport in general, whether it be, I don't have any pickleball players yet, but excited to work with any pickleball players, but just sports in general. So it just, yeah, evolved over the last couple of years. And so pretty happy with it now. I'm, gonna hopefully expand that here, but health and wellness has just always been a part of me.
Yeah, and I love that, your background in athleticism and your value placed in the physical and mental components and how they all tie together between movement and your nourishment and your mental health. It's a very holistic way of approaching your lifestyle, and a lot more people are resonating with that more and more, using that terminology, right? The therapy is the mental gym. I definitely see how that would resonate with more people, and I'm going to start promoting therapy that way too, for the people that are trying to get more into the headspace to do that kind of work. And Gabby was sharing with me that she has like quite the repertoire of different sports. You have soccer, track and field, martial arts, taekwondo, figure, ice skating, tennis, and you've even recently tried pickleball. And so, have you noticed kind of a common thread or common um, type of spirit or mindset that comes around across all of these different sports that you have played or participated in?
Yeah, that actually was a super, I guess I hadn't really linked them together, but I talked to my husband about this because he's been an athlete, but and even if you don't like wouldn't say, oh, I'm an athlete, but you are just active and like move the body in some way. Depending on the level of seriousness that you take it, there is definitely like an athlete brain in terms of competition and challenge. I'm sure we'll get into this, but like fixed mindset, growth mindset. When I was younger, actually, so my dad is actually a really great tennis player. He's 74 and he hits with like a 24-year-old, which is
Oh
like
man.
insane to me. And he's really consistent. I mean, my dad really studied, he's very like detail oriented. But my point is that when I was younger, he used to coach me in tennis and he could never coach me because I I just couldn't overcome certain mental barriers, and he was my coach, so I just felt like I couldn't make a mistake. Tennis is very technical and it was overwhelming at times. And I've seen that for me anyway, it tie into certain sports. And I think that's the case for some people. Like the mental game is, you can train physically and be fit, but it's like 80% mental,
Yeah.
whether it's like taekwondo or figure ice skating, super, super technical. But so I've seen that a lot.
Yeah, and I'm sure that
Yeah.
especially when, that fixed mindset and growth mindset, we'll talk about that here in a second, but those mindsets definitely will carry into whenever you enter a new sport or like a new active world and can really either help or hinder your ability to perform. So let's talk more about the fixed mindset and growth mindset. Can you, for those who have never heard of it before, can you expand a little bit more on where you see fixed mindset versus growth mindset, or some examples of what that actually means?
Yeah, I forget where exactly actually, I know I do. There's a book by, is it Carol Dweck called Mindset?
Yeah, that
Yeah,
sounds, I've read that one too. Yeah, Mindset by
yeah,
Carol Dweck.
yeah. I was like, I'm pretty sure that's where I got it from. But so in that book, it just talks about fixed mindset is kind of like this black or white thinking, like success or fail. If I'm smart, then I'm gonna get good grades. I didn't get good grades, so I'm not smart. Versus growth mindset is, um, hey, I didn't get a good grade. Let me keep trying and let me keep learning, and I'll get
Mm,
better. As I put in effort, I'm going to learn. And learning is more of an outcome versus maybe that fixed, in this case, like a grade outcome.
mhm.
I for sure, oh my gosh, I think a lot of people are fixed. And, there's areas where you might need to be, but I've had to really shift my thinking and how it comes into play, I think, with sports or, pickleball. It's like you can you can get stuck on, it could be performance, it could be you might have a plan in your head of how you want it to go, and then you might mess up, so to speak, or miss a point. And instead of saying, okay, how can I continue through, how can I, adjust and adapt, you might get stuck on that outcome. And so, I mean, obviously the growth mindset is where we want to be, but I think it is difficult for a lot of people. I don't think most people are even cognizant
Yeah.
that they might have a fixed mindset, even with sports.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially when, you have grown up maybe thinking like, "Oh yeah, I'm super talented," or "I'm really coordinated," or even the opposite, like I don't really have any accolades, or "I've never been coordinated before. I've not participated in sports." Walking into the pickleball world with that mindset is already lending to that fixed mindset, as or when you miss
Yeah.
a point or when your body can't keep up, especially in the population where the majority of pickleballers are. I'll hear a lot of, I'm just too old, or this is just part of the aging process. Like there's nothing I can do about it. This is kind of like what it's going to look like. And a lot of that I can see falling into that fixed mindset versus growth mindset are the people who are, seeing that point that they missed and they're ready to analyze what they did and how they can kind of learn from it and growing. Like you said, the growth mindset is very, very oriented towards the way you can learn from it and not letting it basically dictate your own identity or your own capacity for whatever you're trying to do, especially in pickleball. And especially with pickleball being such an easy sport to pick up as far as, general rules or mechanics and such, it can be kind of discouraging when, you maybe don't hit the point or hit the shot that you want and you miss the point that you've been fighting for, or you're up against an opponent that you feel or you should beat, and then they end up scoring on you. There's a lot of opportunity just play by play to kind of take a hit to your ego if things don't go the way that
Yeah.
you planned. So how have
Yeah.
you kind of discussed with people, especially with your athletes, with your high achievers, people who have really gunned for success or gunned for achievements? How do you kind of introduce any sort of like narrative or conversation or dialogue with their own mind, with their own mindset, to be able to start redirecting out of a fixed mindset so that they can be more in that growth mindset and be able to start performing better and being a little more compassionate towards themselves when they're out playing their game.
I've seen it. I'll give you an example. I was working with an athlete that was like starting their season and previously had competed really well and at a high school level, and then going into college, it was like a whole different ball game. But there was still that expectation, right? And so, and that was kind of getting this person into um, you know, trouble mentally, right? Like not
Yeah.
performing as well, self-fulfilling prophecy, feeling like a failure. And so it really just starts with awareness. It's like, hey, let's slow everything down. What does what are your thoughts doing? Like what is the sequence, right? And awareness is, that first part of it. Cognitive distortions, which are just like thinking traps, or can kind of be that way, like black and white thinking, like, oh, it needs to be this or that. I'm either a good athlete or I'm not. I'm at this level. Try to be able to be that person, or. And how do you do that? I mean, I think it can happen off on the court like would be a goal, but it doesn't happen on the court if you've never done it there. So, working sports psychologists do this really well in the sports psychology world. That's or a coach of some kind. You figure out, okay, what's happening, where is your mindset breaking down, and then you can kind of go in and tweak. But I kind of am like on the border of, I'm not really a sports psychologist, but I kind of like touch on that too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you can see a therapist too that has at least experience with that, or a coach, or even a health provider that is working with you to see where that breakdown is happening. And then you just like, I think, become aware of it and work on it. And then it's also I think the hard part is being patient with
Yeah.
applying. Okay, for example, I was playing pickleball the other day with my husband, and the first time it was so fun. But it was also very different than what I completely. I was like, whoa, this is not at all what I had imagined, because the ball doesn't bounce like it just, like tennis, it has the ball, it has totally different. And the second time we played, I was like, I won the first time, and I'm like, I'm totally gonna beat him. And I was getting so I mean, I go to win. Like when I play, I'm like, this is not a game. And I was getting so upset, and I'm like, oh, like beating my racket against the thing. I'm like, what the heck? And I was like, no, like stop, like like unravel, like go back. And it was so hard because I really wanted to win, and I didn't. I lost.
Mm.
But you know, reflecting off the court and then saying, okay, like I totally lost it. I was so mad that I was losing and kept losing, and he was so good at that point. But so I have to do it on myself too, because it may not happen like live as you're playing.
Yeah.
So just reflecting after.
Yeah. And kind of like you were mentioning, a lot of that reflection that has to happen off the court because it's hard to be doing it when you're in the heat in the moment. Are there certain like questions or themes or behaviors or anything that you end up kind of having people think about or observe or notice about themselves? Like how do you know if you're being a perfectionist on the court? Like how do you know that you do need to kind of check in more?
Mhm.
Or if you don't have that awareness yet, what sort of questions would one start asking to start noticing any patterns in themselves?
Yeah, I mean, so you mentioned being a perfectionist on the court. To some degree, this is what I work with a lot of people. I say, if you're a high achiever and you are a go-getter, maybe like a type A personality person, um, like you're not going to be a type B person. Like you're going to be a type A person, and that's okay. Like, I think, some people want to be like laissez-faire and like, oh, it's just a game. Like, it's like, no, there's something innate about certain people that take it very seriously, right? Maybe that type A, and that's actually okay. You don't want
Mhm.
to just beat that out of you because, again, that is part of the athlete. Like, I think of Michael Jordan. Like,
Yeah.
Michael Jordan was the, I mean, you could argue he's the greatest athlete of all time. I mean, his mindset, he was there to win. He didn't take, anyone else's excuses. He was there to win. And so, was he a perfectionist? Yeah, he was, right? So I think it's not always a negative thing. It's just, are you getting anxious, about if you're not perfect, what happens, right? What does
Mm.
that say about you? So things that you could ask are, how's your body feeling? Like, are you like really tight? Are your shoulders up? Are you just super clenched? I mean, what is happening physically and physiologically, your heart
Mm.
rate? Because that just tells you in general how you're kind of responding to whatever this, in this case, pickleball, but how you're responding. Because that's, I think, a maybe a easier cue for a lot of people than trying to understand what's going on in the mind. And then what I always tell people too is ask yourself, is this mindset serving me? Is it helping me
Mm.
right now or is it hurting me? If it's helping you, if being very strict and hard on yourself is actually helping you perform better, you could argue, like, I'm pretty, I think, on that end, I'm pretty tough, and I think it helps me most of the time because I don't let myself off the, like, I kind of stay sharp.
Mhm.
But if you're kind of beating yourself up like, oh, I'm a loser, and I then you're, I would say those are signs. Is that helping you actually? What are you here to do, right? So I would say those couple of things
Yeah,
would
it's
be
like
helpful.
kind of checking in to see, okay, how did my body actually, like you said, physically and physiologically respond to it, especially if we don't
Mhm.
have the language just yet to kind of intellectualize or kind of process through using words what just happened. And then kind of checking in like, oh, am I keeping myself sharp, like you said, or am I like beating myself up for it? And I know that there's a lot of people who will kind of like take their mistakes to heart. How do you
Yeah.
kind of talk a little bit more about, when people take mistakes to heart or ways to kind of start moving out of that, because sometimes it happens before you even realize it.
Hmm. Yeah, I personally, that can happen. Not necessarily like you're taking it so internal, but just taking it, I think of it of like recovery. And I think
Yeah.
I had mentioned that to you, but like psychological recovery, just like you are physically recovering either in between, during the game, or after. Um, when you take it personally, you're making it, in a sense, about your worth, or
Mm.
who you are as a person versus what you're doing, being objective about, you know, the point you made or something like that. But so yeah, psychological recovery. I mean, I think also with having community, that's why I really like pickleball too.
Yeah.
You're not working in isolation necessarily. Like, you have community around you that can encourage you, uplift you, kind of. So I think I mean, I'm just getting into pickleball, but I would assume that there's an element there that can soften some or can enhance some of that psychological recovery,
Yeah.
where other sports are more, um, isolated maybe.
Yeah, no, I definitely know what you mean. There's a huge community component to pickleball, and I think
Yeah.
that's one of the reasons why so many people rally together, and any pickleballer is friends with another pickleballer for the most part.
Yeah.
If you go to another city, it's not hard to get invited onto a court if you just show up kind of interested and ready to play. So yeah, having
Yeah.
that community definitely can help to lift you out of, not being too hard on yourselves, and not um, really beating yourself up too bad whenever a mistake does happen. And something else that I've noticed too in the community is, by having that community, it's kind of like a huge self-esteem boost to be able to just be amongst other athletes, to be doing something for yourself that uses your body. And a lot of people express that they feel a lot younger when they're playing pickleball, or they kind of feel like their body's young again, and that's why they get hurt, because they forget that they're not 20 years old anymore. If they're like, playing at I played with a 92-year-old guy the other day, and he's like, yeah, man, this
Wow.
sport makes me feel so young. And I'm like, that's amazing. I'm also like, please don't hurt yourself. But
Yeah.
from your standpoint and kind of your background, how do sports in general, or even sports like pickleball, benefit people who maybe have had a background or are currently battling with, or trying to work with body image or self-esteem issues?
Oh yeah, yeah. I was looking up, actually I found I wasn't sure if how much research was out there, but I think there's just more growing
Yeah.
research. I mean, it kind of makes sense. Like I think, you know, exercise, movement, better mental health, like it, but studies make it like legit, people are like, okay, yes. One thing that I studied when I was in grad school was the positive body image. Like instead of reducing negative body image, just doing things that enhance positive body image. And
Mm,
certain activities are called like embodying activities. Like yoga is really a popular one,
yeah.
and yoga has been shown to be really good for mental health and positive body image, because it's not aesthetic, it's not really, you're just you're just there and working with the body in a functional way, not for looks. And I really like sports like that, or activities like that, because it just kind of, I think it's just healthier for a lot of people, depending on whether it's depression, anxiety, or body image issues. And so pickleball falls into that category where it isn't focused about how you look, right? And you can be any age, right? We have a lot of older adults playing, and you're just, it's easy to pick up, and you're just moving, having fun. Having a movement like that is healthy. And I was actually looking at I don't know if I pulled it up, but different like actual positive outcomes of playing pickleball, right?
Yeah.
Which is really it's crazy how fast that the sport is growing, and how more people are just playing it, and they're like, oh, this is so fun. And you just feel so, like, I played and I'm like, this is so fun. I can like, I just, it's so interesting. I kind of expected it, but I really like genuinely felt happier. I felt I was sweating like crazy. Um, and when you have community there, you have friendships, and CrossFit was kind of like that for me, but that's a different, like, that's a little bit intensely, but,
Yeah.
um, but, so anyways, uh, in general, I would say activities like that, whether it be like yoga or pickleball, something lighter on the body, great, uh, great for body image and just mental health in general.
And it's interesting that, all the research that has been coming out, more people are wanting to do more research about pickleball to kind of support this phenomenon that's been happening with just this giant influx of, these happier, healthier people. Although there are definitely a number of injuries that have resulted from it, but largely speaking, as far as like the like soul standpoint goes, a lot of people feel very fulfilled being able to play pickleball, and so much so that for a lot of people it becomes kind of a part of their identity. And it's something that they really, really carry with them everywhere that they go, and quite proudly. And it's very exciting to see
Hmm.
people become so passionate about a sport that unites so many people together, but all the more so why the mindset is so important, because if you identify yourself as a pickleball athlete or pickleball player and you're leaning in too far into that fixed mindset aspect of it, then when you go out on the court and you're maybe not having your best day of play, or you had,
Yeah.
not a great score, then that can really hurt that identity that you have,
Yeah.
given to yourself as a pickleball athlete or as a pickleball enthusiast. I like what you were sharing, Gabby, about, that importance of, is this mindset serving me? I think that's a very doable question to ask whenever
Hmm.
any of us go out onto the court to play, even if it's just a rec game or even when we're
Yeah.
competing. In those moments, maybe when we have a moment to think, when there's a timeout, when we're off court between games, when we have our bye or anything like that, like those are great opportunities to just check in with the body and see, like, how am I feeling physically? How's my body like responding? Am I getting revved up in like a gung ho type way, or am I getting revved up in an anxious type of a way? And kind of checking in, to see if that serves what you're trying to do in that next game or that next play.
Hmm. Because we're all different, right? So what might your why of why you play is different from mine or anyone else's. Like some people just want to have fun and that's
Mm-hmm.
awesome. And then some people are like, I'm here to compete and
Yeah.
like take it really seriously. And yeah, the question of is it serving you, it may be serving you, but it may not serve me or vice versa. So I
Yeah.
think it's just a easy person if you can personalize it to yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, that's so awesome. That's a really important and wonderful way to be getting introduced to the sport, because a lot of people hear about the individuals who get introduced to the game, and then by the next week they've already got like three paddles and they're out there playing 5 hours a day, 5 days a week or something like that. I think it's awesome to hear, even if you come from a competitive athletic background, a sport background, that you can still just enjoy sports for fun. And it is possible to still enjoy the competition of it, still enjoy the presence, like you said, that you feel when you're playing the sport, but not always, like, it's again that like fixed versus growth mindset. Like, just because you're
Mhm.
competitive doesn't mean every sport you get into you have to be competitive in it. It's
Right.
allowing ourselves permission to just enjoy it because we want to enjoy it, and to play because it's fun. I think that's something that is really special about, pickleball, about the community, and about, this mindset that, we're trying to promote in the pickleball culture, where, whatever is working for you, keep letting it work for you, and don't try to fit into any other, type of mold or expectation to immediately go to, competitions, just because you're starting to get really into pickleball. And I love that I have, that here in this interview, that hopefully gives other people confidence to say, oh, okay, just because I was an athlete before doesn't mean I have to be a competitive athlete, here now too. Like,
Yeah.
I have permission to grow into a different kind of athlete in this season of my life. Yeah. So thank you, Gabby, so much for coming onto the Pickleball Physio podcast. For those people who are wanting to learn more about what you do, or work with you, or see more awesome resources that you have to share, where can people find you?
Yeah. So if you want to contact me directly, you can call me or send me a message. My office number is 951-251-4034. So you could book a consultation call that way. We can chat. And then my website is Gabriela Bolivar, PhD.com. I'm sure you'll put it somewhere there
Yes,
so
I'm gonna have
people know
all
how
of
to
these
spell it.
in the, yeah, it'll all be in the show notes for you guys to just click on.
Yeah. Yeah. And then on there, you have more about my private practice. And then if you want to work with me.
Awesome. And there's so much to be said about the benefits of going to the mental gym with therapy. And so I thank you so much for sharing all the knowledge you've been giving your clients with the pickleball community. I'm hoping that more and more people will start to, really, really lean into the potential growth mindset that we can each get in these different parts of our lives. So thank you again, Gaby.
Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to another episode of the Pickleball Physio Podcast. If you found some value from this episode, please share it with a pickleball pal so that they can get the wealth of knowledge too, so we can all keep playing many more games for many years to come. Until next time, this has been the Pickleball Physio Podcast, and we will see you on the courts.